I'm joined at the round table by Dr. Jim Dekker. Jim's been a longtime friend of mine, and he teaches at North Park University, where he's the Associate Professor of Youth Ministry. You know, one of the stereotypes of youth ministry is they're not very organized. And so when we think of the word systems, we sometimes think of how we can organize youth ministry. But Jim's actually done a lot of work in this area, and he's going to expand our understanding of this, that it's so important for youth workers to understand the context within which they work. So let's join Jim at the round table now. Hi, we're happy on this episode of the round table to have Dr. Jim Dekker with us here from North Park. Jim, thanks for coming by here to the Remedy Live Studios. You drove all the way down from Chicago just to be with us. It's pretty stellar. You got a new truck, right?
Got a new truck.
Tell us about that.
It's only a week and a half old. New to me.
New to you.
Yeah, an 08 Xterra. Great truck.
Yeah. A little commercial, you should get a little benefit from that.
Go Nissan.
So hey, beside the truck, tell us a little bit about what you do at North Park and your ministry background. Anything you want to tell us?
Well, I've been in ministry for, I guess, over 30 years. Started back in high school days and made my way through college, university, seminary, and I'm still in ministry today. I volunteer at a small church in Chicago, city of Chicago, doing youth ministry, about 20 young people, lead a small group. I just really enjoy it.
That's great. And you live near Wrigley and enjoy the
north side of Chicago
baseball success or something?
The baseball scene.
You have family?
Yep. I've been married to my wife for 25 years.
25, congratulations.
Yes, thank you. And we've got two daughters, two older daughters, 24 and 22, Rebecca and Hannah. Yeah.
That's great. Super. Well, hey, it's good to have you here. And we're going to talk today about systems. I know this is something that you have talked about, written about, taught about often. And when we say systems, what is it that we mean by that? I think a lot of us may have different pictures in that, but what is a system?
Right. Well, when I think of systems and, how I came across the systems thinking was I had studied adolescent development. And we get that a lot in our books on adolescent development, trying to understand how kids grow. We tend to think in a series, they grow from one level to another level to another level. And as I started looking at that, I was kind of thinking, maybe this doesn't work. And as I started to read others, I realized there are many different systems that affect the life of a young person, not just how they think or how they feel, but their family systems, the school systems, even healthcare systems, economic systems. And we start to think of all those different systems impacting the lives of young people. That's how I came across it.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I think that's what youth ministry is. You know, we sit there and we're put in this community, and there's all these areas the community have. We have to know so much: theology, scripture, development, everything. I think when we just say systems, though, we think of the management, the organizational thing, but you mean so much more than that.
Right. Yeah. And I think leadership and management has a great handle on systems thinking. It's a good example. So they think of different issues of power, communications, different elements of that. But what I'm thinking of when I think of systems thinking, I'm thinking more in a broad, multidimensional way. A way of, as a youth pastor, seeing a young person not just as a person in the church on a weeknight or on a Sunday, but seeing how they fit in a family system, seeing how they fit into their school system, and seeing how they fit into some of the other subtle systems that we're often not aware of.
Yeah, so you're looking, you're challenging us, I think, to, when we see our job, to pull back a little bit and see the larger context that what we're doing fits in. So what are some, from your study and research, what are some aspects of systems that we need to be aware of?
Right. One good example of it was a friend of mine, a young person who lived on our street in the north side of Chicago. He was going to a Chicago public school, and his school was on the wrong side of the street for funding. So you had a whole economic system and education system that was affecting his life because he went to one high school. But had he lived on the other side of the street, he would go to a different high school that had a lot more resources. And so he'd be learning in a different type of education system, although it was all in Chicago, they're all public schools. So it's easy for a youth pastor to work with this guy named Anthony and think, well, he's in the school, so we'll do school-type projects. But when you think, well, he's on this side of the street, so maybe we should think of after-hours programs, or maybe we can think of other ways to support or develop him spiritually and socially and educationally.
Yeah. So if I wanted to learn more about systems, what are some other systems that I might need to be aware of as a youth worker?
Well, one of the more obvious ones to youth workers is the family system. Oftentimes as a youth worker, we think of family systems and we think of, is there a mom or a dad or an absent parent or a blended family? But there are other dynamics that take place in a family system that are important to kind of pay attention to. Is who are the decision-making forces in the family, or who is really the relational force in the family, and to begin to think on different layers. Again, opening our eyes to some of the bigger forces within that system. So there's family system. Economic system came up a little while ago. In 2008, we had an economic crisis.
Right.
We talk about that crisis. We started looking at how young people are actually reacting to that, because now young people in high school are considering university and they're feeling guilty for choosing more expensive universities because they knew their parents were kind of getting hit.
Yeah.
But the parents weren't talking about it, but the kids were feeling it. So when you think of the economic system, as a youth pastor, you start to think, well, how is this young person affected by this bigger thing? And you begin to think through some ways to support.
Sure. You know, so most of us in youth ministry are strong in relational skills. We like to be up front. We do the games. Systems thinking is, I remember the day that I had a lady in my church come up to me and she said, I love to keep the scores in our bowling league. Can I just handle your youth ministry budget for you? I said, yes, you know, so that's great. How can we grow in our systems awareness, and why does it matter?
Right. I think the key thing, and I think it's a primary way of opening this up to us, is if we keep asking the question, what is affecting the life of our young people? What is really affecting? Not just how are they doing spiritually, how are they doing with their boyfriends, girlfriends, whatever, but what else is impacting their life? And begin asking them and probing that. Have a inquisitive mind working with them. Because in your particular church, you might have one system functioning and we couldn't know, but you can know. You're the one right there. You have access to that. And as you begin to ask them broader questions, how are you doing? Developing a bigger picture of where they're at. Start thinking systemically, thinking of the education system, the healthcare system, justice system, different systems, and begin speaking into that biblically and theologically.
Sure. And even church systems play a role in this,
Yes.
as we know, and we experience ourselves. I was talking with a student last week who was having a healthcare system situation. He was crying out and parents weren't necessarily listening, and he was saying, this is what I think I need. And so then you step in similar ways we do with crisis. You know, when someone's grieving and having loss, we need to step into those systems and things. Any practical tips for us or where places we can look for more information about systems?
On systems? Well, I think keeping an open mind and keeping an eye out for conferences like YS conferences, and look for people presenting.
Plug, thank you.
Yeah,
That's good, thank you.
It's what we do.
That's right.
But at conferences, pay attention to the topics that are out there, and some topics that might feel like you're a little out of the box.
Right.
Go to them,
Yeah.
and listen to what's going on in different contexts. Network with fellow youth pastors in your area that might not be doing ministry the same way you are, and as you engage with them, you begin to realize, oh, this is opening up another world for me. And that's really where you begin to develop more systems thinking and more of a bigger picture.
Yeah, I think another place would be lay leaders in your church, people who are part of these systems, who can help be a resource to you as you want to learn more about a particular dynamic.
Yeah. I have an example of that, actually. The city of Chicago was struggling in its education, quality of education in some neighborhoods. And churches, because youth pastors were noticing this, they were thinking systems-wise, youth pastors were encouraging their churches to adopt schools. And youth pastors thought this was our task as a youth pastor. But then they realized, hey, there's a couple of high school teachers, elementary school teachers in our churches. There's a principal in our church. Why not network those people in the church together to see how we can resource the young people in the church as well as serve the school system?
Yeah, that works out well when you do that kind of stuff. Good.
It's very powerful.
Yeah. Well, I think it's an important thing for us to consider with systems, and something that in the academic world, there are research on this, all sorts of research on this, and ways that we help people grow, and to realize that each of us in our youth ministry are part of multiple systems that we need to be aware of. Jim, thanks so much for making the drive down from Chicago here to Remedy Live, and appreciate you being on the show.
It's a good opportunity. Thank you.
You know, I love the topic of systems, and some of us are wired to think about systems more than others. But it's so important for us, if we want to be effective in our community, to make a difference where we are, that we're able to identify the systems that are going on around our youth ministry. And so that's what Jim challenges us today, to identify those systems. Secondly, I think the challenge I heard the most there was the idea of collaborating with those who are involved in our youth ministry, maybe teachers or parents or strategic community leaders who can help us learn about the various systems that are influencing the lives of our youth and of our families. Sometimes we want to be so effective in youth ministry, but we're running up against these systems and the forces that are holding us back. The goal for each of us, I think, is that we want to identify new ways, new angles that we can be effective and reach out further within our communities. And learning the systems can help us do that. Thanks, Jim, for joining us at the Roundtable. You can contact Jim at North Park University. And thank you for being a part of the Roundtable. You can email the show at roundtable@uspecialties.com if you want. And we'll see you next time here at the YS Roundtable.